All right, we're here with Natasha from the Food Pantries, who happens to be our next door neighbor. She's been very generous in helping us out, and we're very thankful to be next door and be able to help you out through everything, especially this year. So we'll go ahead and get started on some questions. The first question is, it's kind of the million-dollar question. January 2020 versus now, how many people were you serving then, and how many people are you serving now?
Sure, that's a really important question, and it's hard to answer, honestly, because over the past year, some of the pantries, they're just regular service levels, and about 50% of the food pantries in our coalition of more than 65 have experienced increases in service. But one of the things that happened over the past year is that because of all of the changes to operations and making sure that everybody is safe, and the quantity of food increase going out, some of the pantries were not able to track their service levels because it's just get the food out. And at this point, when we're looking at this year compared to where we were last year, we know that food distribution is up. Many pantries are distributing a lot more food. And so it's hard to answer doing that comparison. So it's a long answer, but what we do know is that the most important thing is keeping the pantry shelves stocked with needed items so that people in the community have that food.
Good. And then that kind of loops into our next question. You responded, how do you feel it's differed the past 12 months, and what is needed to help meet that demand?
Sure. Some of the indicators, we've seen our call volume on our food access referral line increase 1,000%. So we know there are a lot more people seeking assistance, and the people who are seeking assistance are sometimes new. They've never had to use food pantries before. That's why they're calling, because they're not sure where to turn. The other thing that we're seeing is people who are vulnerable or under quarantine. They're not able to physically get to a pantry. And so our whole coalition of food pantries has had to work to put a food pantry delivery system in place to get groceries home to people who are not able to get to pantries. So really the most important thing for us is making sure the pantry shelves are stocked with food, toiletries, personal household items, cleaning supplies, and that people in the community who have a need are able to access it either by going to a pantry or then through the home delivery system to make sure that people are not going without. And I guess I should add, in a regular year, there's 65,000 people who seek assistance from our coalition. So last year, hopefully we'll be able to put some numbers together, but we know it's more than 65,000 people here in our region.
Yeah, and just from what I've seen personally too, it's definitely a lot more, because I know people that have never had to rely on something like this that are all of a sudden reaching out to their local food pantry. So it's an amazing thing, and we're thankful we have that in the community. I'm gonna kind of do a segue. You said delivery. Was that something you offered before?
For the COVID pandemic crisis, being able to deliver to someone's home was kind of hit or miss, depending on, does a pantry have a volunteer available to do it? It wasn't a consistent service that pantries were able to provide. And so now we have some amazing pantries who are getting resources together to actually do the home delivery. We also have some funding, but definitely more funding is needed in order to make those home delivery services available for everyone who has a need for that.
You did say there's some non-food items that the pantry accepts, like toiletries, cleaning supplies, and things like that. Of the non-food items that the food pantries accepts, what's the highest demanded items that you've been seeing?
So personal hygiene products, specifically feminine hygiene products, laundry detergent, soap, and disinfectant, as well as other infant needs products like diapers and baby wipes.
Wow. Yeah, that's something and I kind of reached out to some people this weekend out by me. I'm out in Montgomery County, and asked them what they thought the food pantries took. And they were very surprised when I told them that you take non-food items too. So that'll be interesting, to let this out to everybody else so they can think about donating. If you have a spare pack of diapers or wipes, dropping something off and donating that in the donation bin instead of food. The last question I have, this is kind of a fun one because we're not doing the Family Fun Day in person this year. Do you have a go-to recipe with some very common items or some tips and tricks on how to use these in the kitchen?
Sure, that's a great question. We actually, on our website, thefoodpantries.org, on our Harvest Evening Celebration page, have some recipes that some chefs over the years have put together for us. So honestly, I think the easiest thing to make are things that, we make at home too, right? So pasta and rice and, chili and things like that. There are some really inventive recipes that are really easy to make. For example, a coleslaw by Kizzy Williams from Allie B's Cozy Kitchen that you can find on our website, thefoodpantries.org. Almost every year she competes in our Chef's Challenge, wins easiest to recreate recipe. And it's like straight up comfort food. It's delicious. So I think it's important to keep in mind that sometimes people have limited kitchen facilities when they're making items. So trying to have a variety of food, some require, a fully stocked kitchen as far as having silverware and cooking utensils to make certain things. But it's, think about the things that you cook. Like, what do you cook? What's something that's easy that you enjoy cooking?
I'm a huge fan of rice and beans. It's so cliche, but it's easy. It's great. A long week. I like black beans and white beans and rice. And if I have hot sauce, I throw that on there. If not, I just throw in a can of diced tomatoes. So it's just very simple and quick.
Yeah, my kids love rice and beans too. It's totally a go-to. It's just what do you cook and what's easy. The other thing that can be challenging is like frozen fruits and vegetables are so easy, but they can be expensive. And some of the pantries do have freezer space to keep those items, and others don't. But utilizing those as well can be good.
So you say some have freezers and some don't, but like Schenectady, for example, have you heard of or seen where, they have a need for chest freezers or refrigerators to store some of these cold items?
Yeah, in fact, in the past year, the Food Pantries for the Capital District, thanks to the generosity of our community, individuals and funders in response to COVID-19, we've been able to do 2 rounds of funding out to our coalition, asking pantries specifically, what do you need? And some of the things that pantries have requested funding for include refrigerators and freezers. So that is something that pantries need. Sometimes pantries just don't have the storage space to put a freezer, but for those that do, or if you're in your own community, it's great to ask your pantry if they need a freezer or refrigerator to help them keep more nutritious and fresh foods available for people in their community.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely something I didn't think of. And then that leans into the deliveries too. Do you have a need for coolers or freezer bags or cold bags for people making deliveries?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure that there are some pantries could utilize things like that. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's actually a good thought as well that pantries probably could use bags and saran wrap and foil. I use that. So that's another thing that could be distributed out through food pantries as well, right?
Yeah, or even Tupperware containers for food storage and things like that. It just spirals into other things that people should think about besides food.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the other thing to consider, especially right now at the beginning of the year, SNAP benefits have increased. So people who are eligible for SNAP do have a little bit extra funding. It's not a lot. SNAP is a supplemental program, so it does not provide an individual or family's full funding for groceries for the month. So people still do need to turn to food pantries for help. However, I think it's important for people to realize that SNAP and other government assistance programs, they pay for food, but it doesn't pay for household products, cleaning supplies, and things like that. So that's why we do talk a lot about providing these other items that people can't use their federal assistance programs funding for.
That's a good point right there. I don't know, it's not enough time, but it would be cool to change one of our little builds to, Lysol wipes or something like that if we could. We just can't get enough.
Hand sanitizer, right? Do you remember when hand sanitizer was nowhere to be found?
Everything we just talked about, it's not just food that the food pantry needs. It's, financial donations, diapers, wipes, cleaning products, personal hygiene products, and things like that. So anything that people can donate will definitely help us out.
Wonderful. We so appreciate CANstruction and AOW for putting this together to help our pantries kind of restock themselves after the holiday season. And your donation and support goes right here in our own community to your neighbors and help our community members. So thank you so much for doing this.